All right, let's crack open an ancient mystery. It's a case that pretty much hinges on just two words. For centuries, these words have been used to define a very specific sin, but what if we've been missing the biggest clue this whole time? Let's solve the mystery of strange flesh.
So this is the phrase from the tiny New Testament letter of Jude. It's used to describe the infamous sin of Sodom. And for nearly 2,000 years, it has carried enormous weight, you know? It's often been used as a simple, straightforward label for a certain kind of sexual sin. But what if that popular interpretation has missed the point entirely?
And this is the question that changes everything for our little investigation here. We're going to re-examine the evidence, and we're going to suggest that the real key isn't what the people of Sodom were trying to do, but who they were trying to do it to. The whole focus shifts, from the action itself to the identities of everyone involved.
To solve this thing, we can't just stare at the phrase in isolation. Nope. We have to follow the trail of clues that the author, Jude, leaves for us right before he even brings up Sodom. And our first clue is a very specific pattern he sets up.
Okay, so notice the sequence here. Jude isn't just listing a random grab bag of sins, he's building a case. He's establishing a very specific pattern of rebellion. First, Israel rebels. Second, a group of angels rebels against their cosmic home. And then, only then, does he bring up Sodom. The fact that the story about the angels comes directly before Sodom, that's our smoking gun.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. Listen to how Jude defines the angels' sin. It's not just that they were bad. He's super specific. He says they crossed a boundary. They left their proper dwelling. This is all about violating your designated place in the cosmic order. You got to remember that idea, domain violation.
And this is where Jude basically connects the dots for us. He uses these little connecting words, phrases like just as and likewise, to forge a direct link between what the angels did and what Sodom did. These are not filler words, people. They're like big flashing road signs telling us, hey, interpret Sodom through the lens of those angels. So when you put them side by side like this, Jude's logic just snaps into focus. He's drawing a perfect parallel. The angels left their proper dwelling, and in the same way, the people of Sodom pursued strange flesh. He's arguing that these are two versions of the exact same crime, crossing a fundamental cosmic boundary. So, with that pattern locked in, we're finally ready to decode the phrase itself, sarkos heteros, or strange flesh. And the key, you'll see, is in this deeper, mirrored pattern that reveals exactly what this different kind of flesh really was.
See, the original Greek word here is heteros, and this is so important. It doesn't just mean another person, like I'll have another cookie. It specifically means another of a different kind or a different category. So the text isn't just flagging an immoral act, it's pointing to a full-blown categorical violation. The flesh they were after was different in its very nature.
Which of course leads to the big question. If it's flesh of a different kind, then different from what? And the context that Jude has so carefully set up for us gives us the answer. Different from human flesh. The pursuit was aimed at another order of being entirely.
Now, Jude's original audience would have immediately flashed to a famous or maybe infamous story from the book of Genesis. In that story, heavenly beings called the sons of God cross the boundary from heaven down to earth to pursue human women. This act of cosmic trespassing is the first part of the pattern that Jude is tapping into.
We can call this a heaven-to-earth violation. You've got beings from the spiritual realm breaking into the human realm. It's the exact transgression Jude just talked about, those angels who left their proper dwelling. Okay, now let's pivot to the Sodom story itself. A mob surrounds the house and demands that the owner, Lot, hand over his two visitors, who, by the way, the story explicitly tells us are angels. And that demand to know them, well, that's a pretty well-understood biblical euphemism for sexual assault.
And there it is. It's the perfect mirror image of that first crime. This is an earth-to-heaven violation. Human beings trying to assault heavenly beings. By setting up this parallel, Jude is arguing that it's the same core rebellion, just going in the opposite direction. The strange flesh they were after was angelic flesh.
Now, at this point, a totally fair objection comes up. Someone might say, hang on, what about the prophet Ezekiel? In his book, he seems to say Sodom's sin was something totally different. And that's a great point. Let's look at that piece of the puzzle.
Right. So Ezekiel's diagnosis of Sodom's guilt is this deep social corruption, pride, gluttony, and, this is the big one, injustice and cruelty towards the poor and needy. So, what gives? Which one is right? Was the sin cosmic rebellion, or was it social injustice?
Well, the thing is, they're not contradictory. It's not an either-or. A city can be guilty of a lot of things at once. Ezekiel's goal was to call out social failure by comparing it to Sodom's infamous injustice. Jude's goal was totally different. He was warning against an apocalyptic-level rebellion. So he zoomed in on that final climactic act of cosmic boundary crossing, because it was the perfect illustration for the specific danger he was talking about. And if we understand the crime as a full-blown cosmic rebellion, well, that completely reframes the punishment, doesn't it? The famous destruction of Sodom by fire. Maybe it wasn't just a fit of divine rage. Maybe it was a strategic act of cosmic containment.
The ultimate goal here was containment. In this worldview, when a fundamental boundary between realms gets violated, it threatens the stability of the entire created order. So the judgment wasn't simply punishment. It was more like a necessary, drastic measure to contain a spreading cosmic chaos, like a cosmic quarantine.
So it all boils down to one primary goal: preserving cosmic order. The fire and brimstone suddenly makes a lot more sense when the crime isn't just a moral failing, but a rebellion that threatens to unravel creation itself. The judgment had to match the cosmic scale of the crime.
Okay, let's bring all the clues together for the final verdict. If we follow Jude's own trail of logic, it becomes pretty clear that the historic warning of Sodom has been widely misunderstood. The real story is bigger and, honestly, a whole lot stranger than we thought.
So, based on the evidence Jude himself gives us, his warning isn't a simple condemnation of one type of human sexual behavior. I mean, think about it. If the target of the assault was non-human, the crime itself moves beyond our typical human categories. This wasn't just about a city making some bad choices, it was a fundamental rebellion against the very fabric of reality.
The real warning Jude was screaming to his audience was about something way more profound: the danger of cosmic rebellion. It was a warning against violating the sacred boundaries between heaven and earth, a refusal to accept our place as creatures in the created order, and the absolute catastrophic consequences that follow that kind of choice.
And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. If this incredibly famous warning was so widely misread because we focus on the action instead of the identities involved, well, what other ancient texts might we be misunderstanding? What other stories have we flattened and simplified by focusing on a single act while completely missing the much larger cosmic drama about the boundaries being crossed?